Hey friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer. Today we're going to be talking all about chickens. As you can see, I'm in my backyard in front of my chicken coop. My chickens are free ranging around me, so you might get a glimpse of them here or there in this video. You probably hear them kind of in the background. Now, it's no secret that the price of eggs is really going up lately, and I think mostly because of that, and probably also kind of a desire to be a little more self-sustainable or localized food sourcing, I think more people than ever are really considering the idea of having their own backyard chickens. Now, admittedly, this video is going to be a little bit one-sided because I'm going to be talking about my top 10 benefits of having backyard chickens, basically the top 10 reasons why you might want to get backyard chickens. But honestly, I am biased. I love my chickens, and I've never once regretted our decision to get these chickens. So I'm going to share the top 10 reasons why you may consider adding chickens to your homestead. Now, before we dive into my 10 reasons to get backyard chickens, I just want to clarify that this video is going to be primarily talking about laying hens. We have not raised chickens for meat. Our chickens are for egg production only. So that is basically the perspective that this video will be coming from. Although if you choose to get chickens for meat, they will provide many of these same benefits as well. Now, the first benefit that I want to talk about when it comes to getting your own backyard chickens is healthier eggs. Now, the fresh eggs are an obvious benefit and probably the first thing that everyone thinks of when you're considering getting chickens, especially as I mentioned with the cost of eggs at the grocery store getting higher and higher. Raising your own chickens for eggs sounds like a more and more attractive option. But one other benefit of raising your own chickens and getting your own eggs is that those eggs will also be healthier. Now, a lot of studies have shown that raising your own eggs or getting your own eggs from a local farm, getting those nice farm fresh eggs, does provide healthier eggs. They're shown to be lower in cholesterol, lower in saturated fat, higher in several vitamins, higher in omega-3s. So definitely do your own research on that as to exactly what nutrients these eggs are higher in. But there have been a lot of studies that show that raising your own chickens or locally sourcing chicken eggs from a local farm will result in healthier eggs, and that's obviously a healthier option to feed yourself and your family. All right, it's a little breezy today. Hopefully there isn't too much wind noise in this video. I shifted location a little bit to try to find a spot that's a little bit more out of the wind. So that being said, let's jump into the second benefit of raising your own backyard chickens, and that is food security. This kind of goes along with the eggs, but there's just something really nice and really comforting about knowing that you can go out to your backyard and collect almost an unlimited supply of eggs. Now, depending on how many chickens you raise, obviously that is going to affect how many eggs you get. But it is very easy to raise just a few chickens and have more eggs than you even need for your family. So for example, my family is a family of 4. My husband and I have 2 kids. We have 6 chickens right now, and those chickens provide us with more eggs than we even need. We have been able to give some eggs away to friends and family occasionally. We've also been able to cut costs a little bit by replacing some of the meat that we eat with eggs from our chickens, basically increasing the amount of eggs that our family eats and lowering the amount of meat, which results in a lower grocery bill. So that's something that is really helpful. And just knowing that we have that protein source is a great source of food security. Now, if you want to really get into it, obviously it's not complete food security because we still do have to depend on the feed store to feed our chickens. But there are also ways to decrease your dependence on the feed store. Obviously, if you want to get really into it, you can start growing your own chicken feed. My family is not at that point yet. We don't really have enough land to do that. We do allow our chickens to free range, which cuts down on the amount of feed that they need. They're able to find a lot of vegetation and insect material that they eat, which really does cut down the feed bill. As I said, we are still dependent on the feed store, but it is still really nice just to have that food security of knowing that no matter what happens to egg prices or no matter what happens to egg supply in the grocery store, we do have our own dependable supply of eggs right in our backyard. Now, the third benefit of backyard chickens that I want to talk about today is great if you are into gardening, and that is that they provide fantastic compost. Now, chickens eat a lot. When they eat a lot, they poop a lot. And rather than seeing that poop as a nuisance, you can see that poop as potential fertilizer for your garden. So I gather up my chickens' bedding, I throw it in my compost pile, and that replaces a lot of the fertilizer and the compost that we used to have to buy for our garden. It's just a great way to make use of everything. Composted chicken manure and bedding is a really great amendment to add to your garden, which is really going to increase the amount of food that you're able to grow in your garden. So that is another great benefit of having chickens. It kind of offsets a little more of the feed cost to not have to buy that compost and fertilizer. All right, so as you can see, we're now inside the chicken run. which is wrapped with plastic. So I'm hoping that will cut down a little bit on the wind noise and we'll be able to get through the rest of this video without too much wind interruption. So we are going to talk about the fourth benefit of keeping backyard chickens, which kind of goes along with number 3, and that is reducing waste. Now, when you keep chickens, you're able to really reduce the amount of waste that your family produces by feeding them a lot of your kitchen scraps. So I give my chickens a lot of vegetable and fruit scraps from my kitchen. I also give them scraps from my garden, and that really cuts down on the amount of waste that my family produces. Now there's other things too. If I make a nice big loaf of sourdough bread and the last little end of it goes stale, I can throw it out to the chickens. They don't care if it's stale, they'll eat the last little bit of bread. So that is something that provides more food for my chickens, lowers my feed bill, and also reduces the amount of waste that my kitchen and my family produces. So that is another great benefit of having backyard chickens. So another great benefit of having your own chickens is that you can really put them to work. They are great at doing yard work, especially if you have a garden. You can use them in all kinds of ways in your garden. Admittedly, this is something where I haven't allowed my chickens to reach their full potential in this, but this is something I'd really like to look into more in the future, is using my chickens to help me in the garden. Now, you don't really want to allow your chickens to have access to your garden while it's currently growing because they will destroy it. But some great ideas for using your chickens in the garden is when your garden is put to sleep and kind of done for the season, a lot of people will allow their chickens to free range in the garden area. And what they'll do, they'll walk around, they'll clean up any plant material that's left behind, they'll eat lots of pests that were left behind, therefore making your next year's garden more likely to succeed because a lot of those pests have been removed. They'll also, while they're doing all that, they'll be pooping and fertilizing in your garden as they go. And all of that is just really helpful when it comes to your garden. Now, there's lots of other ways that they can help. Some people will keep their compost pile and allow their chickens to have access to the compost pile. They dig through that and they help turn the compost. If you are going to do that, you're going to want to look into what kinds of things chickens can and cannot eat safely. And there's certain things you're not going to want to put in your compost pile. For example, coffee grounds. Chickens should not have access to coffee grounds. So if you're going to allow your chickens to have access to your compost pile, coffee grounds are one thing you're not going to be able to put in there. And if that's something that you're interested in, just definitely do your research and make sure that you're only composting things that are safe for your chickens. Now that kind of brings us right into the next benefit of backyard chickens, which is pest control. Now, I mentioned when it comes to the garden that chickens can make really good pest control, but chickens are great pest control in other ways too. If you allow them to free range, they're going to eat ticks, they're going to eat pesky bugs that you don't want in your yard and your garden, and that's really going to cut down on the amount of nuisance that you have. My garden has been kind of plagued by cabbage worms. They really like my kale and my broccoli, just all of my brassicas, but the chickens love to eat the cabbage worms. So sometimes in the summer, I'll go out to my garden and collect whatever worms I can find, the cabbage worms. They're actually caterpillars, not worms. So I collect them and bring them out to my chickens, and my chickens love them. So that's a great way, as I said, to cut down on the feed bill for my chickens while providing pest control for the garden. So reason number 7 why you may want to consider getting backyard chickens, and this is my personal favorite reason. As much as I love the eggs and the compost and everything else that the chickens do, honestly, my favorite reason to have them is just because they're so fun, they're so entertaining. I love when it's nice and warm out here. I love hanging out here, drinking my coffee while I watch my chickens run around. I love just hanging out with them and spending time with them. They're just so fun and entertaining to watch. Once they get to know you and they start to associate you with treats, they're going to run over with so much joy to see you when you come over. It's almost like having a dog when you get home and the dog jumps up to see you. When I come and let my chickens out of the run, they run out with so much joy, and they're just so much fun, and it's kind of almost like free therapy, free stress relief. So I really enjoy having them. That's kind of going to be personal preference. Some people just keep them and view them as livestock, and that's completely fine if that's how you want to keep your chickens. We definitely enjoy the other benefits of them as well, but I do personally get a lot of joy out of just spending time with them. Benefit number 8 of having your own chickens is that you are going to know that those eggs that you're getting are coming from happy chickens that are treated well. As opposed to buying eggs from big industrial poultry factories where the chickens really don't live in the greatest conditions and you don't know how healthy those chickens are. When we get eggs from our own backyard chickens, we know that these chickens are healthy, we know that they're well taken care of, we know that they're living happy lives, and we don't have to feel guilty about eating those eggs because we just know that there are no animals that are living horrible lives to provide food for us. And so that is something that's kind of an intangible benefit, but that's something that really does mean a lot to us as well. So benefit number 9 kind of goes along with a few things that we've talked about already, and that is just the value of local food sourcing. Now, there is kind of a movement nowadays to get away from food that's trucked in from all across the country and just to locally source as much of your own food as possible. And that is a great thing. When you have locally sourced food, including chicken eggs, you know that that food is fresher. You know that it's going to have a longer shelf life for you because it's fresher. You know that it's going to have a higher nutritional value because those nutrients haven't degraded in the time it takes it to be transported across the country and the time it's been sitting on a supermarket shelf. Now, I'm not sure the exact age of eggs on the supermarket shelf, but if you look at it, it is at least several weeks old. And so just the benefit of going out to your chicken coop, getting an egg out of the nesting box, cooking it up that day. That's an egg that your chicken just laid that day. It's going to be as fresh as possible. It's going to have its full nutrient value, and you're also reducing the amount of food miles that that egg had to travel to get to you. I mean, it can't really get any closer than your own backyard. So that is another benefit that I think is kind of an underappreciated benefit of raising your own chickens, but something that is really valuable to us. So the final benefit that I'm going to talk about today in this video is just the value of teaching responsibility. Now, if you have kids or if you have teenagers in your home, you know that having a pet or raising an animal is a great way to teach them responsibility. And having chickens is no different. Honestly, I find that chickens are less work than any other pet that we have, but there are still chores to be done. You're responsible for making sure that they have food, that they have water, that their coop is cleaned. You're ultimately responsible for their health. And that is something that is a great way to teach kids responsibility. And kind of going hand in hand with that, it's a great way to help kids connect with where their food comes from. You know, even a lot of adults nowadays, especially here in the United States, you know, you go to the grocery store and there's food everywhere. All the shelves are lined with food. Food comes from all over the place, but we all see it in our grocery store. And so I think a lot of people are really disconnected with their food sourcing nowadays. And that is why, kind of going back to the previous benefit, I think the benefits of local food sourcing, including growing your own as much as possible or supporting local farms, those are kind of things that really give us a real appreciation for our food. And I think that that is something that is really missing in today's society. And so I think that that's a great thing to get back to. And that is a great reason to consider raising backyard chickens. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of benefits. There are so many other reasons why backyard chickens are a great idea for a lot of people. So if you can think of some reasons that I have missed that I haven't included in this video, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and I would like to see your favorite reasons for raising chickens. Or if you are considering raising chickens but maybe haven't taken the leap yet, let me know why you're considering it. Why is it something that you think is really important to do? One thing you'll notice on this list that I did not include was saving money. That is something that is definitely possible to do, but it's not always easy because raising chickens does cost more than a lot of people think. Now, there's ways that you can definitely reduce the cost. You can see we have a really nicely constructed solid coop here. My husband built this coop because he is really handy with tools. He's really great at constructing things like this. And we also wanted a coop that looked really nice since it's going to be close to our house. That being said, you can definitely, chickens do not need a coop that's this nice. You can put together a much simpler coop that will still serve your chickens just fine and will cost quite a bit less. So you definitely don't need a coop that's quite this solid or this fancy, but we do love this coop. We actually last summer did a video kind of doing a chicken coop tour where we kind of walked you guys around the chicken coop and showed you all our favorite features of the chicken coop and kind of the reason why we designed it the way we did. So I'm going to go ahead and link that in the video description. If you're interested in getting chickens and you want to see a little more detail about our coop, go ahead and take a look at that video, and I hope that will give you some inspiration. By free-ranging your chickens, you're able to cut down costs. There's lots of ways you can cut down the cost. That being said, chickens are not guaranteed to save you money on eggs. Now, with the price of eggs the way it is, I would say I think you have a lot better shot at saving money raising your own chickens. But honestly, I think that while we like saving money on eggs, I think that that's not even the biggest benefit for us. I think all the other benefits that I mentioned in this video are things that are even more important for us. So again, go ahead and also, while we're at it, go ahead and leave your money saving tips when it comes to raising chickens in the comments as well, because I know I'd like to see those, and I'm sure other people who are thinking about getting into backyard chickens would love to see them as well. So I look forward to reading those comments as well. So I hope that this helped make your decision about chickens a little bit easier. As I said, this is a one-sided video because honestly, I love having my chickens, and while there are some negatives, In my experience, the positives far outweigh the negatives, and I would 100% get chickens again. We actually have some baby chicks on order that are coming to us in the spring, so we'll be adding to our flock really soon. So I'm really excited to introduce you to those little girls when they show up. So I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope that this has really given you something to think about when it comes to deciding about whether or not to get your own chickens. And I can't wait to see you guys again soon. Bye guys, I'll see you next time.